Hi, welcome to Mama Mandala. I'm Hagar. It's a full moon. It's a full moon in Virgo, and not only is it a full moon, but it's a full moon eclipse. So eclipse over history have been associated with an omen, with a sign that something bad was happening. Because think of what you would think if all of a sudden the moon was full and then a shadow crossed it and you had no idea what it was. But the darkness and the shadow here can become an invitation to see things in a new way. So once the shadow passes, we have this invitation to ignite a new way of being, a new way of seeing. So the full moon greets us in the sign of Virgo, and Virgo is a sign that's associated with the process of structuring, of building something, of bringing order to chaos. So what are we going to build as the shadow passes through us and around us? How will we restructure? How will we renew our organizing of ourselves and of the world when and through this portal of darkness? What will we emerge with from the deep cave moment that takes us into not seeing, into darkness, into this internal space of dissolution, out of which we can emerge anew? So I'm not an astrologer. I'm more of a mythologist. So don't take this video as an astrology one, but as an invitation to look at the archetypal play here, to receive these ideas and concepts as opportunities to work with the environment, yourself, what's going on in the world, your own personal process, but also the collective and the culture and what we're all going through right now. So if we are invited to restructure and build something new once a shadow passes, that's evocative. That for me, I don't know about you, but for me that helps me in this moment where I am hit by grief every day with what's going on in the world right now. I know I talk about it in every video. I feel like I can't not, because I can't just show up to mythology and to yoga and to meditation without acknowledging, without conversing with, without being in relationship to what's happening around me, right? See what I mean? We are relational beings. Yoga has been a practice. I know this is not a yoga practice, but yoga is a practice, and the culture that comes through it that takes us inwardly, but also not just inwardly. That inward turning gaze that yoga was very famous for is a later addition than the origins. That doesn't mean that the origin is the right way. That doesn't mean that this newer way is the right way. It doesn't mean that the way that we do yoga now is the right way. It means that things keep changing, that life keeps structuring itself in new ways, in more ways, in other ways. Sometimes we like it and sometimes we don't. But the structuring of things, the bringing order out of the chaos, is this archetype's role. Virgo, it comes from, it's the Roman word for virgin, and it is known and thought of more commonly as someone who hasn't had sex, right? But Virgo originally referred to women that weren't married and that were independent. So it means she who is unto herself. So there is an independent quality to this archetype, this autonomy, this ability to have clear boundaries and direct relationship with who you are, with what your place is in the world, in the moment, with cultivating clarity around yourself and around who you are. Now, there is, we have to have this in relationship with the capacity. Think about Virgo season. So Virgo season, we're not in Virgo season, we're in Pisces season. In fact, the relationship between Pisces and Virgo is very important in the moment of the full moon. Wow, an eclipse, come on, right? Because it's a relationship between the light of the sun and how it hits the moon, right? And the shadow of the earth that is crossing over and hiding the moon from 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 us, right? We're seeing our own shadow, right? So there's a relationship here. Ooh, I have so many thoughts in my head all at once. ADHD brain, what am I gonna do? Okay. Focus, right? One of the things that Virgo is really great with is the capacity to focus, is the ability to gather the thoughts, because it happens in what happens in Virgo season in the northern hemisphere is that there's a scattering of energy. It's fall, it's autumn, everything, all the leaves fall off the trees, things spread in all directions. It's just the beginning of fall, but it's the beginning of disintegration and and a scattering. And it's also harvest season, right? So fall is harvest. That's fall equinox, for example, is the first harvest. So it's this this time where we get to gather the parts, right? And Virgo is the end of summer. It actually isn't in the fall. It leads us into the end of summer. I got this a little off for a moment, so I'm sorry about that. Um, but Virgo transitions, it's a mutable sign. It transitions summer into fall. So it takes us, it carries us into fall. And things begin to scatter because things begin to lose their their peak, right? The peak of summer, the peak of fruit is beginning to now, it's the beginning of the end, right? So that's Virgo season. But Virgo full moon happens in Pisces season. Right now it's Pisces season. So the sun is in Pisces. And the sign of Pisces is that infinite, the connection to the infinite, the boundless vastness of the universe. The swimming, it's a fish, right? So it's swimming in the ocean of oneness, where the boundaries of self dissolve completely and merge with the entirety of being. It's the last sign in the cycle of the zodiac. So it takes us into that completion. We are now merging with the infinite. But how beautiful, because we have a full moon, and the full moon is in Virgo, and Virgo is the peak, right? It's like, it's the peak of fruit time. It takes us into the fullness of harvest. It takes us into that place where, okay, dissolution is happening on the one hand, but a peak arrives in another. Pisces, in a way, in its vastness and boundlessness, invites us when we're meeting the full moon in Virgo into relationship with interconnectedness, that everything is interconnected, and that there is an individuated experience, right? You are an individuated being. You're part of an ecosystem. You're part of an infinite universe. You are the whole, and you're part of the whole, but you're also your own self. You are intricately connected with everything else, but you're not everything else, but you are everything else. In a way, that's like the relationship between Virgo and Pisces. Virgo is very much focused on the boundaries, but it's here for service. It's got that healer, medicine person archetype vibe that shows up for society. It's, if you like tarot, it's the hermit, which right now, when I'm shooting this is a hermit year in the numerology of tarot. And the hermit is someone who is very much going inwardly, very much in the process of being in the dark and going alone and being inside, And it's a teacher archetype. It shows up to share. It carries, if you think of the Rider Waite Coleman Smith card. Do I have it here? I have it here. He's holding a staff. I don't know if it's focusing on it. But he's holding a staff and he's holding a lantern. So it's someone that carries the light with them, but also brings that light to others to share. It's that light that we find inside ourselves through the capacity to be very clear and focused, right? And then once we ignite it, we excavate. Excuse me. We excavate it. We come into relationship with it, and then we're sharing it. We're not just going to keep the light for ourselves. We're sharing it with others. We're showing up into relationship. When you think of the way that the zodiac wheel of astrology works, the first 6 signs, when the cycle begins with Aries. That's the next season is the season of Aries. It's the season of, in the northern hemisphere, of springtime, and in the southern hemisphere of fall. So, but Aries ignites. It's on the opposite line of Libra, which takes us in the northern hemisphere into fall, right? So Aries ignites the process, and then there's other signs that come along that path of something that's initiated and takes us through a personal process. And with Virgo, we reach the peak of personal. But at the peak of personal, at that boundary, there is also a part that shifts toward the collective. With Libra, there's a marriage. There's a uniting force of masculine and feminine, dark and light, inner and outer. So that's the next full moon. But with Virgo, we're at that peak of personal, where the personal has matured to the place of knowing, to the place of arriving to share and to give and to offer. Think again about Virgo season. There's abundance, there's summer fruit, it's everywhere, it's coming at you at the farmers market from every place, right? And at the orchards. So Virgo has this mother nature abundance quality to it. It's Demeter, if you think of Greek mythology. She's the mother of Persephone. She's the grain mother. She is definitely, she's a mother, but she's also, there's that maiden character, even though Persephone in the story embodies the maiden. But Demeter is a Virgo quality, because even though, yes, Persephone has a father, it's not about the father. Demeter raises her. Demeter is the grain mother. She is the abundance on the earth. She's earthy. Virgo is an earth sign, and it's a mutable earth sign. So it reminds us that earth, even though it is the element that is most solid, is never without changing. That the earth itself, that which we think of and consider as most supportive and stable and solid, also changes. And the earth has gone as a planet through so much change. And the soil can go through so much transformation, which is, we see it in a negative way in the environment and the crisis of ecology. But there's also the hope that in the capacity to transform and to change and to be mutable, there's also the ability to heal. And here's Virgo again as a healer, as a teacher, as the hermit, as the one who comes from a very deep internal place to share the teachings of the inner realms, right? And we want to be careful not to turn that archetype into a guru, And that's a little bit more dangerous. And what comes before Virgo, that kind of comes with Leo. Like the Leo loves the spotlight. So the guru archetype, which is it's like the shadow of the Leo archetype. The shadow of Virgo, so here we are meeting the eclipse, right? The shadow of Virgo is not that of narcissism, but one of perfectionism. So there's like almost like a fussiness to the shadow of Virgo, because they're never done with the project. There's always one more thing to add. So there's anxiety there, right? Because it's and never being content. Now, not being content is not necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes not being fully content with something can help us keep changing and moving and developing and evolving. But not being content also has danger in it, right? Everything has its shadow and light, right? Virgo takes us into the darker days of the year, but Virgo full moon takes us into the lighter days of the year. It shows up as abundance, but it takes us toward, like, it's full abundance, but it also tells the story of a transition toward decay and toward no abundance, toward the time when Demeter loses her daughter Persephone, because Hades, the lord of the underworld, the king of the dead, takes her, abducts her daughter and takes her with him. And sometimes I have all kinds of theories about that story. I love that story because I think it can be looked at through so many angles. And in a way, this is great because there are so many ways to interpret a story. You know, sometimes people ask, what's the real meaning of the story? And the great thing about mythology and folklore and fairy tales, all stories are invitations to a deep process of interpretation. So it's never about the right meaning. It's always about what's the meaning that works best. What's the medicinal meaning for the moment, right? Being the healer archetype of Virgo. And with the precision of Virgo, we would think that there is one right meaning. That might be the shadow, right? Where there's a self-righteousness and two, kind of like a narrow-mindedness. There's one way, that's the right way. But Virgo's brightness takes us into the capacity to discern which interpretation is the best one for now. Right? If we look at a story like the story of Demeter and Persephone and their relationship, did Hades abduct Persephone? Did he rape her and abduct her and did all these horrible things to her and deceived her and lied to her to eat the pomegranate, so that she must, he will give her back to Demeter, but only for half the year, because she owes herself to him. So we can look at that as the toxic masculinity there. And much more than that. Wow, we can go so much deeper. Or did Persephone kind of had the hotsies for Hades because God dang, he's hot, right? Like he's badass. He's riding a motorcycle. He's a hot daddy-o. He's super cute, and she's a young woman, but she's you know, depending on how you look at the story, but she's in that moment where she has to differentiate herself from her mother. She's gonna, was she abducted, or was this a rebellion act? And I urge us to not say, this is the right one. I urge us to take the capacity of Virgo to discern not what the right thing is, but what is the most helpful way of looking at things right now. And I know we did not go deep into this story because this story is really long and really deep and really beautiful, and this is not the time and place for it, but just pieces of it and pieces of the idea that discernment can help us arrive and engage in what is most healing, helpful, right for right now. And not, because it's mutable earth, not get stuck in this is the right thing and that's it. The shadow and eclipse, we're here in the eclipse time, the shadow gives us an invitation to look at the places where we might get too caught in this is the right thing and that's the only way. The eclipse gives us an opportunity to go with, are we thinking that that's the structure, that that's the meaning, that that's the situation, that that's the path that is the right one? Sometimes you have to make a decision. Virgo is really good about that. Making a decision, following through. We have to do that. But then we also cultivate, hopefully, the capacity to go, oh, okay, I don't know the full picture. I know as much as I know. I'm going to go this way. But I'm going to give myself the permission to change course when needed. So I'm going to be discerning, and I'm going to decide. I'm going to be discerning and decisive, and follow through and move. And then I'm going to be able to shift when it's time to shift. I'm going to give room for change. Oh, there's so much more. But this is enough for this. I'm going to leave for you a link in the description of this video to go to a full moon written piece, an essay about this full moon, so that we'll explore there in a different way. So I will leave that for you in the description of the video so you can explore there. Those moon messages come directly to your inbox every new and full moon, more or less, because I leave myself the room to sometimes not do it. But more or less every new and full moon, there is an email that I send out through my mailing list. And you can sign up for the mailing list on mamamandala.com. And I would love for you. I will actually leave a direct link for you to subscribe so that you can get those full moon and new moon messages directly. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please hit the subscribe button and put a like on this video if you like it. Share it with your people. And also, go ahead and subscribe to my Substack. I'm cultivating something new there, and I'm very excited. And actually, I would love your support. If you like my videos, please join me over there as well. We can go deeper. We can do more. Virgo invites us to go into the depth of our being. It is the hermit, right? It's this invitation to hold a staff, to ground in wisdom, to hold the lantern, to go deep within so that we can open back up and share and reach and connect. Okay, that's it for now. There's so much more, but more will be revealed in that blog coming at you in the description of this video. So hit that, okay? Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your presence. Mwah. Have a wonderful, meaningful,